So yesterday we had an unexpectedly really nice day. Took advantage of it too. Had a really nice ride. Got back with the FCR. Tried to rearrange the garage a little bit because we're going to do some deconstructing on the 650 project this morning. I'm not sure exactly what, but I have to decide after coffee. But it reminded me again and again why it was so worth it. All the time I spent on that FCR. Every time I ride it, I like it more than the time before. So now with the garage organized, I want to decide, and I'm going to have my coffee and make a corporate decision. I want to take some parts off to paint and prepare, because it's supposed to rain most of the day today. But I was thinking some of the things I could do that would be productive. I want the side pieces to dry one more day before I buff them. But I could start with the seat. I can take the fender off. Some of the small parts, I'm just looking at the menu, some of the small parts that need refinishing. I'm trying to do this methodically, and I'm trying to do it by leapfrogging. So I always have paint drying, and I always have something to sand and paint on a day like today. And by doing the process of leapfrogging, and I don't know that that's the right term. It's a term I invented because I have frogs somewhere in my lineage, I don't know. But anyway, the whole idea of leapfrogging is that you don't take the whole bike apart at one time. You take it apart piece by piece like a vulture would take a dead raccoon apart or whatever. But then each part you work on, there's always one in the sanding process, always one getting ready to dry, always one ready to buff, and at the end of it you have a whole new motorcycle in parts down in the shop. And boy, did that procedure ever work well on this bike. Had I taken this whole bike apart in one chunk, I would have probably not enjoyed it as much as the process that I used, the leapfrogging process, allowed me to. And I want to just mention that because that's a significant thing. And especially when we laid out the ladders and did some of the things like replacing the forks. Because one of the things in this garage that's a problem is when you go to really deconstruct the bike, you have to consider how you're going to get the other bikes out for a day like yesterday when we wanted to ride. And all of a sudden you get a day that's 45, 50 degrees and you want to ride. So that's the dilemma every morning, is try to use the time productively, but most of all that you enjoy the time. Now in this I have to pull a seat, that's one thing. I've taken the tail section off, that's already been and now just imagine how this was when this bike was new. That was all flat black. There was a big thing hanging down with reflectors on it and stuff. I have to take this part of the seat out. There's a part down here that comes right off. There's a part over there that comes off. And another thing I need to do, and I need to figure out how I'm going to do it, I want to pull a windshield off. I have two separate windshields. I have a black one that's much taller than this one. And so what I really wanted to do as part of this customization, I wanted to take the black one, lay this one on top of it, and shorten it that amount. Not sure that's going to happen. Not sure what we're going to be able to get done today, but I know it'll be a lot better after I have coffee. Now it's funny, I spent about an hour yesterday afternoon raking leaves, and just so my pond would be clean, my fish don't get contaminated water, and I come out this morning and there's another million leaves in the yard. And I know if you've watched the videos, you know all summer Karen and I were planting this garden. There were a million flowers, and nature has gone through its circle of life. And I guess as we all are, going through the circle of life. And this will be the test, and we'll figure out very quickly how we're going to spend this day. So Turbo Steve's parts are drying up extra days while he's away in California doing his thing. And what we'll do today is just let these parts have an extra day or so under the heating vent. It'll make the buffing out even better. These parts buffed out, I'm not sure you can even see this on the video, the quality of this finish. But that's the way I want the whole motorcycle. Or all the parts that I'm going to restore. I hope eventually we'll have that quality of finish. I bought some brand new number 11 blades, bought some more of this vinyl material that we were making patterns out of, but it's It's a sticky back vinyl. I want to use it for making stencils. As one of the choices I'll have when John sends me the material he has, I'll have two materials to go back and forth and see which is going to work the best. But I really am happy with the way that finishes. And see, another good thing about leapfrogging, you get to see some parts done. If I had the whole motorcycle apart, what would happen? This whole bench would be full of motorcycle parts, and it just starts to get overwhelming. If you do, as I've done with this project, do one part, move on to the next part, do one step at a time. And in our case, we always have some Turbo Steve. Seems like we always have some of Turbo Steve stuff here too. But anyway, time to get out to the garage and pull some parts off the paint. Well, there's some good news here. It's warmed up to about 35 degrees, so it's not brutal out in the garage for doing this deconstruction. Now, one of my objectives was I wanted to see how that gold paint was going to play out, and of course there's some trim on the seat. I wanted to be real comfortable that gold paint was what I wanted before I did the wheels, but I want to do some more of the body work before I actually get into doing the wheels being the major project here. Now you have to remember, a lot of these parts, they're 11 years old. Some of them were flat black originally, and I painted them. And so, in an ongoing attempt to make the whole bike not flat black, that was part of our whole to-do. But they come off relatively easily, and we're going to refinish them, of course. But because this already has a black finish on it, I would be tempted at some time, we could just, no, we're going to put a brand new finish. We're going to sand it, we're going to prime it, so that everything on this whole bike is brand new Bentley black. Now, one of the things that's in our favor is this is a relatively easy bike to work on. I'm sure some bikes would be a lot more complicated. This one seems to come apart and go back together relatively easily. But again, these are parts that have scratches on them, and they probably look okay on a video, but in real life they're not exactly what I want. You might be able to see there's chips in the paint. And the bike is 11 years old, and it's a bike that's been ridden. It's not a bike that gets ridden on summer days only. Easy. Don't you wish that the whole bike came apart like that? And just like many of the Japanese bikes, they come apart with these little nylon Zeus fittings. And it really makes taking a bike apart really a snap. Now, the reason I have to work on this part, I had a camera mount that used to fit in this groove that I'd never used. I didn't like it. I made another one, but I want to get this bondoed in. Even though the seat kind of conceals it, I really want to make this as nice as I can. And the bike has this little cover that snaps right on and off, and that's where we copied the lettering that's going to go on the upper fairing. John made a really accurate copy of that. And they, of course, snap right off. And actually, that is a nice lettering, a nice look. But again, that's where we did get the thing that John is making the template for this job. Now, some of the fasteners that are under the seat are easy to get to if you can have. I just have that Harbor Freight light that you get for free whenever you buy a pack of gum at Harbor Freight. That really is a handy tool. So here I am. I'm working on a bike. I'm out in a freezing cold garage, and look what came in the mail. No, not Motorcycle Mall. This is, I wanted to put this on the video, product of Costa Rica, fresh flowers, Flower of the Month Club, and I wanted to get this thing for Ruben McBride was interested. I think it was Ruben. AmazingClubs.com. There's the phone number. Now what happens is, the kids bought this for Karen for a birthday present, and every month they send you fresh flowers. Now this time of year we have no flowers, so I'm going to bring that in. Karen's away right now. When she gets back, we're going to open these flowers up and have a cup of coffee. All right, so I came back out. While the coffee's brewing, I wanted to mention there are some Zeus fittings underneath that have to be addressed. I don't want to, because I haven't had this part off the bike yet. I got to check back here. I think, but I'm not sure, you have to take this piece off. I got to see how this comes apart. I don't want to force anything, and there's a good idea, and this is a good trick, by the way. If you ever don't know like where the last screw is and you can't figure it out, and your YouTube doesn't show you, you can go to Partzilla, and Partzilla will always show the exploded view of the seat and where the screws are going, and so you can kind of interpolate and figure out where it is. Now, I've used that thing many times, like on the R1 when I was changing a starter motor, because it's very difficult to figure out sometimes where that last screw is. But that is a good trick. Partzilla can give you a clue. I got to go inside and have coffee. If you only knew how cold it's getting out here, and we're expecting a big storm tomorrow, that's why I wanted to get all this stuff down in the cellar so I could prep it. And if you're ever in doubt whether to have a cup of coffee or open up your flowers, I have a suggestion. Do both. And then get back out to that garage. The cold garage is calling. So of course Karen and I both love coffee. And these flowers, I don't want to open them up. She'll put them in a vase. There's some beautiful stuff, and as you can imagine, we don't have a flower left in our garden. Not a flower, but we always have extra coffee. And you can see how that looked when it all, feel like we're in Costa Rica here. And little known fact, my beautiful bride, smiling for the picture here, actually went to a flower decorating class, how to make these arrangements with some of her friends. Kind of like a Wendy going with Luciano to a track day. It's a track day for flowers, and of course she's a highly paid artist. Let's put it that way. I pay her for these pictures, and the reason I'm panning the living room here is we're only a few days away from decorating for Christmas, and our family, we make a big deal out of Christmas. We always have, and this is all her artwork. I have my garage, my freezing cold garage. She has heat here. She has air conditioning, and she has flowers from Costa Rica. Now, why don't I have flowers from Costa Rica? Anyway, very soon we're going to be decorating the house, and of course we'll put a few minutes of that on our videos. It's about time to get back out to the tundra. It's not Costa Rica where we are right now. So I just wanted to mention this. This Bob Navola's wife gave us one zinnia plant a couple of years ago, which turned into a plant that I pirated 1,000 seeds from, and I made this whole garden. This all came from Nanda Navola, and they have gone through the whole circle of life. I guess pretty much, I guess this is me in the circle of life right now. Here we are, the circle of life. Anyway, Karen is a very talented girl, and she helps me with these restorations, making me avoid painting bikes purple and stuff like that. So I'm back after a nice flower show, and I'm ready. This is the part I'm laughing about. It's brutally cold out here. I want to make this as quick as possible. So, but anyway, I'm trying to show all of the little tricks and tips and things. That's one of the things we enjoy, is sharing that information. And this bike really does come apart relatively easily, relative to some other bikes I've done. Now, once those lower Zeus fittings are off, it looks like this. Oh, yeah, the parts come right off. I love the fact that this bike is relatively easy to work on. Some of these things, mamma mia. If you ever go to put a starter in an R1, it's an adventure. This is coming apart real nice. And this part here, you can see, is really beat up. But that's why we're doing the restoration. And one of the things to be sure, you always want to be careful. All of the fairing parts, no matter what you have, especially if you have track day parts that are paper thin, or some of those Bimota parts or Benelli parts, holy mackerel. They are brittle as glass. These, because they're plastic, and I'm not sure what kind of plastic, but they tend to be a little more durable. Now this part I've already painted. This came flat black. When I painted it, I said, ooh, nice, it changed the look of the bike. It's going to get a new fresh finish on it, Bentley black of course. But as I look in here, see, now while I have this apart, I'll be doing some steam cleaning this afternoon. I might want to get in there with the steam cleaner, I don't know. Actually, the motor on this, there's not a drop of oil or grease anywhere. It's, 28,000, 27,000, whatever it has. Maybe it's overkill to steam clean it, I don't know. This is a really nice, takes the gas friendly motor, gets unbelievably good mileage. It's just a bike that's fun to ride. Every time you ride, and I always think there's always somebody with a 1000cc bike, including myself. You're all excited about having a bigger, more powerful bike, but at the end of the day, this is the bike you want to ride. And maybe that's one of the hard lessons to learn when you're a long-time motorcyclist. When you're new to motorcycling, you always say, I want to have the fastest bike, the prettiest bike, I want to have this, I want to have that, I want to have Zeus fittings, I want to have chrome this, I have Rizoma parts all over the place like a Christmas tree. But then, when you become a connoisseur, when you've had 50 years plus of riding, you start to look around and you want the finer things in wine. I don't drink wine, by the way. Anyway, the circle of life. And we are going to give this guy, you know what I always think? I wish I could do this to my body. I could unscrew my achy knees, get rid of my arthritic back, maybe get a new head with a new brain in it. I don't know, new Rizoma parts, I don't know. Anyway, we're going to have enough parts to keep us busy for a while after today. And that's the whole objective today, is get the parts down the cellar, and so for the next couple of days we don't have to be out in this freezing cold garage. Now with all the plastic parts here, these are going to be all ready for prepping, and of course most of that I'll be able to do down in a nice warm cellar, not out here. I'm going to make mirror plug off plates, get rid of these. This was just an expedient thing because I wanted to ride the bike. I didn't want to take it all, and it's a little bit of a job to get that off. Didn't want to go through that. Now those little, I call them kick plates that come with the bike, I was thinking of making a set of carbon fiber ones just for a nice little project, nice little winter project. And these are the ones I made for the R1. I really like the way they came out, and of course I always like having a part on the motorcycle that you really can't buy in a store. And by the way, I love the way those wheels came out. If we get the wheels, these, I can't tell you how proud I am of those wheels. Every time I ride the bike, I look at them and then I look at the video, I just think, wow, was that worth it? Or anytime I make a carbon fiber part, and I got plenty of the carbon now from Dave and Dick Hewitt, so I just need to figure out. Now one of the things I like about this, you see how this takes a beating here from your boot? Well, because it's resin, I just put an extra coat of resin on these, and just every once in a while hit that with a buffing wheel, and it looks brand new. And all the carbon fiber work I did on the seat, this piece for one, to me, all that, those little of course the mufflers, those little projects, that was all the material I got from Dave Midgley, the Huntsman resin, and from Dick Hewitt, the carbon. Another nice little project. So here I am, I'm trying to decide how much more of the bike I want to take apart, because I want to make sure I don't get away from leapfrogging. I want to be able to do a reasonable amount. When I was younger, and that was a few years ago, there were times I had 4 or 5 motorcycles taken apart, parts all over the cellar, 3 workbenches full of parts. I can't do that anymore because I'm like that flower in the back of the garage. I'm just old and decrepit. But like the RD, old and decrepit, and still a lot of fun. Maybe. So I think the last thing I'll do is pull a fender on this, and I'll have enough parts to fill up the workbench. But in younger days, I had 4 or 5 Mark Morgan's bikes, Glenn's bikes, stuff for Vince, Luciano. Sometimes I had 2 of Luciano's bikes at the same time. He was flipping a bike a week. Now I think this fender is going to be the last part, because again, I don't want to get so much, I don't want those workbenches so filled with parts that it just takes the fun out of it. And when you're younger, it seems like you can deal with more. I'm getting to the point where I just like to work on one bike at a time and do it right. Now, no restoration event would be complete without one bolt that I think the nut is broken on the other side and it's rusted shut. I put some WD-40 on it, of course, but I may have to take the front tire off to get in there with a pair of vice grips. You really can't get in there any other way, but it's always something. If it wasn't for this, it wouldn't be an adventure.
So what has happened is the bracket that the nut is attached to, it's obviously threaded and it's stripped, and to get that out, it looks like the only way I'm going to be able to get it out is to jack the bike up, get the hoist, and pull the front wheel. I don't want to beat the hell out of everything in there. And it's always the thing with any restoration, there's always some things you really have to improvise along the way, and that's what makes it an adventure. Now, I don't have the Kawasaki tool, but I made one out of an old socket, and you do need that to pull the front wheel. So the first thing is, I got to pull the brake calipers, pull them back, just like I was changing a tire. Not a big deal, but it just added some time into this job. This is one reason I try never to set some unrealistic time windows. I started off thinking this fender would come off in about 30 seconds, and I was wrong. But it doesn't really matter. We'll revamp the day because I don't want to bust anything up. And what always happens is there's always something on an 11-year-old bike that rusts shut, or a nut that you can't get out. It's always annoying. One of the best tools I ever bought was this from Harbor Freight, this electric power winch. And every time I use it, I think, wow, I have the hand winch down at the other end to come along. The power one, I had a coupon, it was about 75 bucks, and I have used it so many times. Now I've got to get this right underneath. I got to move it forward a little bit. But it just makes this part of the job so easy. Now, if I'm really doing some high-tech work on this, I would put the stand in the back to stabilize it. But since I'm just pulling the front wheel, yeah, maybe I'll do it anyway. I always like to have as many safety things as possible. This is a tool well worth its weight in electricity. Go with the rear stand, just makes it a little bit easier, a little bit safer. And now, of course, just to get the calipers pulled back and pull the front wheel. Just like changing a tire. Now, even during a simple tire change, it's always good. Get the calipers up out of the way. I just use zip ties, and this one's done. You can give these a little wiggle and get them zip tied up out of the way. Calipers up out of the way, I checked, and I have plenty of pad material left, and surprisingly, this bike really does have a good set of brakes. So we're ready. And now I can get in at that fender, that broken bolt, or broken nut I should say. And there's always it's always something. I'm trying to show where this is the part right here that's broken. I can't get my finger on it, and I'm hoping I can get either some vice grips on that or something. That really is just looks like a part that it's a threaded part that just rusted shut. What I'm going to try to do here is just show with a light how that spun around there when I try to loosen it, and there's just no way to grab it with the tire in place. Well, that's it. Now, because of where this is, and it's so awkward to get in there, I need to get the vice grips down in there. I'm going to grind away at the tip of the vice grips so I have 2 points that'll get in there and lock in. Otherwise, what I'm doing, I'm just stripping out material from the fender when I do this. So what I did by grinding those points, I might be able to get in there. I don't know. But this is making a tool for these jobs, and it's always something. Show how that didn't do much. That part is frozen on there. So now the only thing left is the nuclear option. Dremel tool and a grindstone and just grind it off. And it looks like we're going to have to repair that piece of the fender anyway. So at this point, I'm not really worried about it. And once I ground away, it's the heat from grinding away. I didn't grind the bolt away, but by grinding away at the bolt, and I ground on this side, you can see how much I ground. What happens, that throws a whole lot of heat, and it's the heat that unlocks this now. Because we're in a plastic part, we'll have to repair that part with carbon fiber. We can do that, or in the worst of all worlds, just get a new part from Partzilla. That's a small part. In the end, we always win. Famous last words. Anyway, these parts are ready. Now see, this part, where I ground that away, yeah, actually it's not even going to have to be repaired. I can fix that. I don't know if I can show this up close. That nut was spinning around, but what I'll do is I'll JB weld out those nuts in place. And actually all of them, they're all rusty. I'll clean them all up on a wire wheel. All these parts are going to be ready. I can take this apart. All these parts are going to be, and why the hell do they ever leave this flat black? Does that look like a fender? I mean, what designer at Kawasaki? Shame on you for leaving that flat black. Just another little minor thing as I'm taking this apart, and this took a big chunk out of the day. All of the blind nuts on this are rusty, so when I put this back together, of course, I think I'll invest in some new hardware and hope that that's going to solve that issue. And what a day. What a job getting this crap off. Holy mackerel. Now while I have this apart, it's very convenient to get in here and degrease this a little bit without the front wheel here. It's a piece of cake, in fact. And I'm not going to do the steam cleaning today because this episode of getting this fender off ate a good part of the day up. But in the end, we win. That's all that matters. Get some of this off. I got to put the front wheel back on, and this day is coming to a successful end. The success is, and it's a wonderful success, to be honest, we will be inside for the next couple days. We don't need to take any more parts off for a while. There's a big storm coming through in the next couple days, and I look forward to being in a nice warm shop drinking coffee. And no point even making this roadworthy here, just putting it on hand tight. I have no sense even putting the calipers on, because probably one of the next things we're going to do is we're going to be pulling the front wheel. I'm not sure how I want to do this, do the fairings first or the wheel. I really did want to get that gold tested, and it exceeded my wildest dream. And now it's always the best part of any day when you're done. Oh. And by day's end, it was a really cold day out here, and I am very glad that it's over. I'm ready to get inside, and Karen's already brewing up another cup of coffee. Now, after looking at what a day this was and getting that blind nut out of that, now that's what a killer is on a restoration, is you never know where that rusty bolt's going to be. And I remember one day at Luciano's, we had trying to take the steering dampener off one of his Ducatis, and I had to take the Dremel tool, and Luciano will remember that on that yellow Ducati, that steering dampener bolt. What an adventure. But it's always good to remember, in the end, it doesn't matter what happens in the bottom of the 8th inning. It matters what happens in the bottom of the 9th. Well, there you go. Now, we've got a couple of nice days preparing parts for paint. We've got a storm coming in we have to work around. And the biggest news, we're going to be decorating the house in the next couple of days for Christmas. So we got a full plate. I don't know where this is going to go, but I know the parts are inside. So when I wake up in the morning and it's 24 degrees outside, I'll be drinking coffee down in this shop. And I love working in my shop in the winter when it's cold outside. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have better luck getting your fender off. Anyway, thanks for watching.